Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, a mother's demand for answers over her son's unexplained death. Mikl Akram was found semi-naked face down on a bedroom floor in a Glasgow flat more than a year ago. Also tonight, we'll discuss the calls for Scotland to boycott this summer's World Cup after President Trump's threats to take control of Greenland.
There are things that's bigger than just entertainment and sport. People have to come together.
I would go if I had the chance, I've got to say, yeah.
And we'll have all the sport with Sheila. What have you got for us tonight?
Well, Fiona, we'll hear from Celtic boss Martin O'Neill, who's quietly confident of taking something from the Europa League tie away to Lewis Ferguson's Bologna tomorrow.
And the schoolgirl football team who fought back after being awarded a small plastic trophy when the boy winners were given a grander full-size one. Hello, I'm Fiona Stalker. Welcome to the news at 7. A grieving mother has demanded answers after her son's unexplained death in a flat used as Home Office accommodation. Mikl Akram was found dead at a property in Glasgow's East End in August 2024 with street Valium in his system. The 37-year-old also had bruising to his face, body and limbs and stab wounds to his leg, possibly inflicted after death. His mother, Sheena Miller, told BBC Scotland News that she believes he was the victim of foul play.
I couldn't even function. My son had broken bones right down to the fibula, stab wounds, he had bruises all over his body. But it's the length of time they left my son dead. I haven't slept. I haven't slept the whole year. I've got, my hair fell out, I've had to wear a wig. Because of the, I've just absolutely got really out over it. This was my child. This was my firstborn baby. I mean, it's awful. You can't even imagine what it's like. Not getting any answers, and they won't even release his name. My little boy was described as a dead body found in Parkhead for the last 15 months. That's heartbreaking. No mother should have to have done what I've went through.
Well, I've been discussing this with our social affairs correspondent Chris Clements and asked him to tell us about the circumstances of Mikl's death.
Well, Mikl Akram had been on a night out at a late-night bar in Glasgow city centre. He met up with a group of people. He went back to this flat in Parkhead about 3 in the morning on August the 15th, 2024. And after that, the events of what took place in that flat are less clear. We know there was multiple people there, but we don't know how many. Now, just after 10 o'clock on August the 15th, so 19 hours after Mikl had arrived at the property, police were called to the flat over reports of an assault on another man, not Mikl. They attended, they found the man. He'd claimed he had been assaulted with a knife and robbed. And that he was then taken to hospital for treatment. They then arrested the occupant of the flat. Now, when police went into the flat, they found the body of Mikl Akram, and he'd been dead for several hours now. We have seen the post-mortem report. It tells us that he had alcohol and bromazolam, street Valium, in his system when he died. It was at the lower end of the scale because of the amounts. We don't really know his tolerance to it, so it's less certain how big a role that played. He had several minor injuries. That was bruises to his face, his body, his limbs. The report says assault can't be ruled out, but that didn't cause his death. And most unusual, he had 4 small stab wounds to his leg, possibly caused with a screwdriver, pair of scissors, and the deepest wound fracturing the bone in his leg. And the report says it's likely that these injuries were inflicted after Mikl had died. Now, ultimately, because of the uncertainty of the drugs, the amount of drugs, how he came about his injuries, the cause of death was listed as unascertained. Police have investigated this for a year, and they say the death is still unexplained, and that does not satisfy his mother, Sheena Miller, as we've just heard.
Indeed, but it took place in a Home Office flat, didn't it?
That's correct, Bill. It was a flat that is operated by a company called Mears Group, and they're contracted by the Home Office to run asylum accommodation, and that's been in the system since 2019, that flat. Now, the person that lived in the property at the time, he's since moved on, was a man named James Carter. Now, he was born Abdu and Dow. He's from Gambia, and we understand he'd been in the immigration system for some time, but his current status is unknown to us. He was arrested for assault and robbery at the flat on the night Mikl died, against that other individual that we'd mentioned. Carter was held in remand for a year, but the case was ultimately dropped at the trial stage. We understand that's because the complainer was unable to be cited to give evidence. Now, we put a number of these questions to Mr. Carter. Were drugs being used in the flat? Why wasn't Mikl's death reported sooner? And how he came about those post-mortem injuries, and he did not respond.
OK, and what about the authorities? What have they been telling you, Chris?
Well, police say the death remains unexplained. They said that no criminality has been established in the investigation. Any new information that comes to light will be investigated. The Crown Office says it empathises with the deep distress and pain faced by Mikl's family. It says its investigation concluded no further action was required, and that it will meet with the family next week, I believe, to discuss its findings. And like the police, they say that should any further information come to light, then it will be investigated. Now, as you've heard, his mother is unsatisfied with all of these outcomes, and she believes there is evidence of criminality and that her son was the victim of foul play in that flat.
OK, well, our audience can read more about that on the BBC Scotland News website. Chris Clements, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Well, the lawyer for NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde has argued no personal or professional criticism should be made of individuals running the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital when the hospital's inquiry delivers its final report. It's investigating the construction of the campus and its impact on patient safety. During his closing submission, Peter Gray KC argued that not listening to whistleblowers was an organisational failure, and that changes had since been made. Now, let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. A former housemaster at a residential school in Newton Stewart who assaulted and raped vulnerable children has been jailed for 10 years. William Brydeson, who's 78, committed the offences during the 1970s and 80s. The developer of a huge wind farm planned off the north coast of Scotland has warned it will not be built unless what it calls unfair transmission charges are overhauled. Conor Graham, who leads a group behind protests outside an asylum hotel in Falkirk, has admitted swearing at and abusing a police officer and pled guilty to breach of the peace. For more on all these stories, you can scan the QR code on the screen. It'll take you to the BBC Scotland News app. Now, when Scotland beat Denmark to qualify for this year's World Cup, no one could have foreseen that an international dispute about Greenland could end up knocking us out before we even get there. Well, why? Former SNP MP Hannah Burdell has joined calls for a boycott of the tournament in the United States in opposition to President Trump's threats to take control of Greenland, part of the Kingdom of Denmark. So should the SFA and the Tartan Army put NATO solidarity ahead of the first World Cup matches in a generation? Here's what people in Inverness think.
There are things that's bigger than just entertainment and sport. People have to come together and send this strong message, so I definitely agree with it.
Serious matters of life and death should be handled by politicians. You shouldn't need athletes to take time out from their careers to do the things politicians should be doing.
I'm not sure how safe Scotland fans would be in America right now. Difficulties getting in. From a personal point of view, I wouldn't go while this administration's in power. So I can see merits in it. I also think, you've waited for 30 odd years. You really don't want to give that up, and I think that's fair enough.
I don't know. No, I would go if I had the chance, I've got to say, yeah. I wouldn't let them stop my fun.
If everybody joins together and makes a stand, I think it's maybe a little bit scary for Scotland because we're finally there, which would be a shame to kind of jeopardise that, but I think we've got to do what's good for the majority of people, yeah.
Well, I'm joined now by Hamish Husband from the Association of Tartan Army Clubs. Hamish, good evening to you. Always good to chat to you. What do you make of the suggestion of a boycott? What's your thoughts?
Well, on returning from that magnificent night against Denmark at Hampden, I returned home, my wife had a glass of champagne and said, "So your principles are up the window." So at that point, I was going to the USA. Now, the call for a boycott, they're a wee bit late. We all pledged our hundreds of dollars for tickets a few weeks ago. The credit card will be taking $1,200 from my account in a couple of weeks. I have booked my flight to Boston, so we're on our way.
It's interesting, Hamish, your wife makes an interesting point, because there are those who feel very strongly about it and believe that a sports boycott will shine a light on this issue. What do you think about that?
I know the Tartan Army are world famous, but I'm not sure that Keir Starmer is over in Davos today using us as a bargaining tool for him to withdraw his threats on Greenland. As popular and powerful as we are, I'm not sure we can convince the President of the United States.
If other countries, for example, join a boycott, at which point would your mind be changed, Hamish? Or are you set on a course now?
I would think probably in the semi-finals when we're playing England and it's going to the last penalty kick. At that point, I'll be leaving the stadium and going home because I'll be fearful of the final.
As unpredictable as global events are now, and people watching the news will know it's changing, not even day by day, but hour by hour. Does that make you any more anxious about arrangements ahead of the World Cup finals? I mean, you say that you've paid your money. Do you mind me asking how much?
The tickets are, for the first 3 games, the last 32 and 16, $1,200. So it's a considerable sum that a lot of us are paid to go there, never mind the cost of accommodation, which is skyrocketed. At this stage, there is a rumour flying around that the President of the United States, using his Scottish heritage, his Scottish mum, is claiming to have had 50 caps for Scotland, 3 Scottish Cup medals, and is disappointed that he didn't get Player of the Year award last year. So he's as unpredictable as that. I'm just a wee bit stunned at this boycott that we should be leading. We're football fans.
So nothing would dissuade you from going then?
No. But I don't see where the call comes from, out of the blue. You've had boycotts before in the likes of South Africa. I would be horrified at the thought of breaching a boycott like that. But where is the boycott going to come? I'm looking for our politicians in Europe, in the European Union and NATO, to come together and to legislate to protect Greenland from basically the President of the United States. So it's not it really isn't my responsibility or the 10 or 20,000 Scots that are heading over to the USA.
Hamish, thank you for joining us. No doubt we'll speak before the finals. Hamish Husband there from the Association of Tartan Army Clubs. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch with BBC Scotland News about this issue today. Alan says we have an overinflated idea of our own importance if we think Scotland boycotting the World Cup will make a blind bit of difference, kind of reiterating what Hamish was saying. John in Straven says, keep politics out of sport, full stop. Ian MacDonald from Edinburgh says, I now think that we should use every tool at our disposal, including all members boycotting the World Cup. We must stand together. And one last comment, are people suggesting boycotting the World Cup, also asking all the families booked to go to Florida's Disneyland to cancel their holidays. It's an interesting one. Now, if you were ever part of a successful school sports team, you'll remember the joy of winning. Unfortunately, for South Morningside Primary Girls football team, the moment was somewhat tarnished. They won the prestigious Edinburgh Schools Cup last year, only to be presented with a small plastic trophy. It paled into comparison with the grand trophy given to the winning boys team on the same day. The girls since lobbied the organisers for trophy equality. Earlier, I spoke to the tournament president, Willie French, and Caitlin, who explained how they felt when they were presented with this trophy.
We felt really sad because we thought that we were getting like one of the biggest trophies, because we had this like whole tournament and it was like a really big thing and everyone's been talking about it, and then they just come out and give us this thing, and you can see at the bottom it even has this like sort of glue at the bottom, and that was really, really hurtful because it basically was saying that we weren't worth it.
It actually's got glue at the bottom, I've just seen that. So what was the chat among you and your teammates? Because you'd won this competition and then you were given this glued together trophy.
Yeah, well, we thought it was very, very it was really hurtful to see, because we went up to Willie French and we were like complaining to him, and then he said, we'll have a chat about it, and then we went and had the chat, and as you can see inside, it's just getting held together by screws and glue.
Screws and glue. Well, let's bring in Willie. Willie, what did you think when you heard from Caitlin? Because they were not happy, were they?
Well, Fiona, I can actually make a comment about the presentation itself. So last summer was the first time that we'd had the girls' final included with the 3 other finals that we hold. So I wasn't normally in the nature of seeing the trophy, but when I was putting the trophies out for display, even before the presentation, it's the first time I'd seen the trophy in quite some time. And when I saw it sitting with the other 3 trophies, I have to say I was a bit embarrassed myself. So I wasn't in the least bit surprised when during the presentation I could see the complete deflation. After the elation of South Monastir girls winning the cup, I could see the deflation when they were presented with really what was an inappropriate and very, very inferior prize compared to the others.
How did you fix it, Willie?
We had to address it as an association because we're in the nature of trying to encourage and motivate and inspire and increased participation of girls, not just in football, but across the range of sports that we provide as an association. And although this is about South Morningside's achievement, this is really about providing a competition or a tournament, if you like, where the efforts and the achievements are recognised regardless of whether you're a boy or a girl.
Caitlin, you won on the pitch and you won off the pitch. How are you feeling now? What are your ambitions for the future?
Well, my ambitions for the future is try and win the cup again for this year. And even though we're just like tiny little people who are still growing up, we still need to stand up for like people who are telling us and like giving us these little trophies. That's why we stood up in the first place.
Well, you're a role model, Caitlin. Well done. Well fought. Thank you so much. Caitlin, Willie, thank you so much. Good to speak to you tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, tell you, screws and glue. Caitlin, you're one to watch, I think. Well done. Now, still to come, we'll have the weather with Christopher and we'll be talking movies with the organisers of the Glasgow Film Festival. But first, it's Sport with Sheila.
Thanks, Fiona. Yes, we're on the eve of a significant night of Europa League football for Martin O'Neill's Celtic as they visit Bologna, who are currently 13th in the 36-team table under head coach Vincenzo Italiano. That's a lot higher than Celtic, who trained in Glasgow this morning ahead of their flight to northern Italy. The Parkhead side are in 24th position, teetering on the brink of missing out on the chance of progression in the competition. O'Neill confirmed Celtic are close to completing the loan signing of Czech striker Thomas Chivanchara from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and the manager is quietly confident of taking something from tomorrow's match.
We think that we're ready for the task. We know how difficult it's going to be. As I said earlier, they're a very strong side themselves, and while Serie A form might not be fantastic just in recent weeks, then and we ourselves are trying to recover from that, from our own league. But we have a chance, and that's what we're going to try and take if we can.
Well, Bologna captain Lewis Ferguson's relishing coming up against Celtic again, but he's also thinking ahead to booking his place in Scotland's World Cup squad. The former Aberdeen midfielder missed out on the Euros with a serious knee injury. He admits he's not starting for the Italian side as much as he would like, but he's up for the fight to regain his place in the team and boost his chances of being involved in the big games this summer.
Missed out in the Euros through injury, and it was devastating, so I think to have that at the end of the season, sort of being there and as a motivation, as a sort of focal point on the fringes, guys that are out in the squad, everybody will be thinking the same thing. So yeah, just hopefully I can stay fit, be performing at a good level when it comes around.
Well, after Bologna, Celtic have a top-of-the-table showdown against Hearts, whose boss Derek McInnes insists it's not all doom and gloom around the club, following 2 big injury blows and a Scottish Cup exit in the past week. Captain Lawrence Shankland is the latest in the treatment room after picking up a hamstring injury at the weekend. But McInnes is hopeful he can add 1 or 2 new recruits to his squad ahead of Sunday's pivotal Premiership encounter at Tynecastle.
It's been a tough week with injuries and suspensions and stuff, and it has took its toll. But I think the good thing is we've got to be grateful that we're in a January window and you can still act upon it. You know, we could be sitting here next month and all of a sudden you're faced with this. So at least we're actively trying to alleviate some of the concerns we have, and hopefully that can be the case. And if you can get one or two things in, then it maybe alleviates minimising that risk with certain players. But you know, obviously it's a big game Sunday. We've still got a lot going for us in the squad. It's no doom and gloom, and I need to stress that.
Well, like Celtic, Rangers are in Europa League action tomorrow at home against Bulgarian champions Ludogorets, managed by Per Mateus Hogmo. But the Ibrox club know they can't progress in the competition. At his media conference this afternoon, head coach Danny Röhl was being pressed on the likelihood of any further January transfer business, despite already adding 3 new players during the window. And the German isn't ruling out the addition of a statement signing before the month is out.
I will not tell so much because then maybe there's a disappointed if it's not the case. But maybe there's someone where we can bring an exciting signing in. But yeah, it's a lot of if and maybe, and let's wait.
Remember, there's lots more to watch and read on the BBC Sport Scotland website, including how Rangers' next Scottish Cup opponent Stranraer might be kicked out the competition for fielding an ineligible player. Yes, not good days for them.
No, indeed. I wonder if any of their trophies will hurl together with glue and screws.
Well, I doubt that very much, Fiona.
Indeed, yes. That was a great story, wasn't it? Well done, yes. Caitlin. Now, Glasgow's silver screen credentials are no longer in doubt. Spider-Man, the Batman, Indiana Jones, you name it, it's been shot in the Deer Green place. But it's often masquerading as a stateside metropolis. This year, Glasgow's Film Festival is hoping to alter perceptions of the city as it launches the 2026 programme. Now, for the first time, it's opening and closing with a film shot locally and not playing the part of somewhere else. The documentary Everybody to Kenmure Street will raise the curtain on the event, and James McAvoy's directorial debut, California Scheming, about an unlikely Scottish rap duo formed in Dundee, will close it. Here's a wider taste of the wider programme. Well, Glasgow Film Festival's head of programme, Paul Gallagher, joined me earlier to talk to the highlights of this year's events.
There's so many highlights. There's 126 films across the festival, but if I was to pick out some, I would start by focusing on some of the Scottish titles. And we have the UK premiere of Peter Mullen's new film, The Fall of Sir Douglas Weatherford. Really looking forward to that one. And then in a different vein, we have the world premiere of a new Scottish documentary, Molly versus the Machines, engaging with the debate around young people and social media, which is obviously happening right now in the UK. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, our closing gala, California Scheming, another absolute highlight. So those three begin to show the range of what we've got at GFF this year.
And was it a conscious decision to bookend the festival, the beginning and the end, with films about the city that it's taking place in?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's an absolute gift to have these two films as opening and closing. I mentioned closing. As opening, we've got Everybody to Kenmure Street, Felipe Bustos Sierra's new documentary. And yes, Glasgow Film Festival is all about Glasgow and like film in Glasgow. And to have the opportunity to actually have Glasgow front and centre on the screen, reflecting the city back to itself as opening and closing gala, I wasn't going to pass up that opportunity.
You've got some big names as well, big names in these films. Tell us a bit about that, the stars.
Yeah, we've got UK premiere of Couture, a film starring Angelina Jolie. We've got Josh O'Connor's new film, Rebuilding. We have The Wizard of the Kremlin, which features Jude Law, Alicia Vikander, Paul Dano, many big stars across these screens. And one of my absolute favourites, Willem Dafoe, starring in not one but two UK premieres, Late Fame and The Birthday Party.
Are we going to see any of these film stars in Glasgow? And I asked specifically about Angelina Jolie, but are we going to see any of them in Glasgow?
This information is still being kept tightly secret because at the moment the focus is completely on announcing the films in the programme. Now, guests are a huge part of Glasgow Film Festival, what makes it so special, and we'll be talking more about them in the weeks leading up to the festival.
How would you describe the health currently of the film industry in Scotland?
Well, based on the films that we have in the festival this year, we've got 13 films that either have talent in front, Scottish talent in front of or behind the camera, or Scottish production involved. To me, that feels really strong. That feels like a really healthy place. And, you know, I'm programming the festival, so I'm seeing the finished product on screen, and that's what I'm judging. And judging by what I've seen this year, I think Scottish film is looking great.
Just a very, very quick final one. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, there was the perhaps cinema decline when streaming services going up, particularly after COVID. How healthy is cinema going, do you think? Still got a big future?
Definitely. Like looking at GFT, and that's Glasgow Film Theatre, the hub venue for Glasgow Film Festival. We have busy audiences year round, young audiences growing, young cinephiles developing a love of classic cinema and wanting to see that on the big screen. You know, I think, to me, the future looks bright for cinema.
Thank you so much, Paul Gallagher. And if she does come, you can bring in Angelina Jolie too.
I will do that, yes.
Thank you. And the Glasgow Film Festival kicks off on Wednesday, the 25th of February. Now, Christopher's here with the weather. Do you hear that? Angelina Jolie, if she comes, will be coming on the news at 7.
Can't wait.
Stand by. What is happening to the North East Riviera, Christopher? It's all gone a bit wrong, hasn't it?
It's looking
not
pretty,
living up to its name.
looking pretty wet and windy, actually.
Yes.
Warnings are in force. Thanks very much indeed. Some big waves around the east coast today. Those will continue. There were some sunnier skies across parts of central Scotland, but many areas cloudy and wet, and that is the theme for the next few days. Let me show you what's happening. We've got low pressure nearby and a strong southeasterly wind driving in rain to many areas, but particularly the northeast of the country. That's where the rain totals will be mounting up, and that's where we're likely to see some issues with flooding. At the moment, there is a Met Office yellow warning in force for rain across much of the northeast, from around sort of Stirling, Perth, up towards the northeast of Aberdeenshire. But from midnight, an elevated amber warning in force, Perth up towards Aboyne. So it's a cloudy and a wet night, and that's how we start the day tomorrow with those strong winds. The black arrows there indicating wind gusts, and you can see that area of rain, and it's just likely to rain here for much of the day tomorrow. Towards the west and northwest coast, a little bit dry, but still windy. Same too across the Northern Isles with gale force gusts, some disruption likely on the ferries. So through the course of the day tomorrow, there's the rain. It will extend its way westwards into the afternoon, affecting west central Scotland and the southwest, drying up for a time in the northeast, but it's not done with you yet. Temperatures 6 to 9 Celsius, still windy. And then tomorrow evening, another band of rain now working its way northwards and again focused across the northeast, now turning wintry at elevation. So we could see some fairly significant totals of snow across higher road routes through parts of Murray, Aberdeenshire, Highland, Perthshire as well, and that could cause some disruption for those travelling. Looking further ahead, this is Friday, low pressure situated towards the southwest of England and a southeasterly wind once again. We still have outbreaks of rain in the northeast. The wind's just easing back a touch, and the temperatures easing back a touch as well, certainly across the north. 4 degrees Inverness and Aberdeen elsewhere, not quite as chilly. But through the weekend and into the start of next week, we've got cold east or even northeasterly winds setting in, and that means it will be turning quite chilly, particularly across northern parts of the country. There's the numbers you can see through the weekend and into next week, and it will be unsettled. For many, some drizzle or rain, but for some wintry showers to contend with at times too. That's the forecast.
And as you say repeatedly, it is January. That's it from us tonight. Thanks for your company, and thanks to the team here in the studio and in the gallery. Join us again, same time tomorrow night. From Christopher and I, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.